There's probably going to be a 5 second delay or something.
Okay.
So right now, people are looking at us, looking at the screen.
Mm. Yes. Okay. So it's there. I see it. I'm gonna mute it. So, okay. All right. Well, hello, folks, and welcome to the PsychCraft Network's second YouTube Live. And so we're working out all the bugs of this, and we're getting better at it. But today, our topic is going to be around how we're using AI, particularly as from a mental health perspective, but also from a small business perspective, and the different ways that we're doing that. So I'd love to introduce our panel, and I'll go start with Steve. Tell folks about yourself and who you are and what you do.
My name is Steve Bisson. I'm therapist, work with mostly first responders, and my podcast is Resilience Development and Action in the PsychCraft Network. I also put on my Instagram that we are live right now. And to tell you how much I use AI, I asked them what the Montreal Canadiens have to do to win the Stanley Cup next year. And I did that as early as last week. I am not kidding.
Do they have to score more points than the other team?
That's pretty much what AI told me. But they
Yeah.
told me I had brilliant ideas too, which I don't quite believe, but okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. James, tell folks about you.
Hello, this is James Marland from Course Creation Studio. I help therapists create products that will help them reduce the amount of client hours they have and reduce burnout. I have the Scaling Therapy Practice podcast, and I've used AI to help make cat videos. So
Yeah, that's a helpful thing. Yeah. And I'm Gordon Brewer. I'm the person behind the Practice of Therapy podcast, and also a therapist, and have a small group practice in Northeast Tennessee, and also founded the PsychCraft Network as a way to bring folks like this together and us be able to share ideas around our what we do as podcasters, and helping support each other along the way. I know for me, AI is really I really consider myself kind of a very much of a novice compared to a lot of people, but I think one of the things that I'm using it a lot for is copywriting, and just coming up with, I mean, like for this particular talk, had it to write us an outline of questions to consider using Chat GPT. But also in my practice, in my mental health practice, we're using AI to help with our write our clinical notes, and by giving it different prompts and it being able to kind of draw from different aspects of what happens in a session, and writing some really amazing session notes. So it's been really helpful in that way. But yeah, so maybe a place to start is to maybe each of us talk a little bit more. And I know Steve, you have delved pretty far into this as far as using it in your practice, but also creating different templates and different things that you're using to work with first responders, and creating a platform for first responders. You want to say some things about that?
Well, there's so many places I want to go with that. First of all,
Uh,
um, yes, I will plug this one. Free.ai is one of my sponsors on my podcast, and I use them and they do my note taking. They create, and when I need goals, they create goals. And if the person ever needs a letter, they get a letter besides that. It's a very, very, very helpful process for me. Probably saves me at least an hour a week of
mhm.
work. And it's HIPAA compliant. So for those of you who are concerned it is HIPAA compliant, I don't want to make this a plug by any stretch, but I want to be realistic about that's what I use it for. And I think I go back to, in the late 1800s, there was a box that started making noises and it sounded like a human talking. And everyone was scared of that box. And then they created a box where not only there's a person moving in an image in black and white, and that was scary. And then there was the internet, and the internet's going to screw everyone over. And now it's the AI era, and I think everyone's going to be scared. So what I say to people is like, use responsibly, just like anything else is going to be good. But like it helped me, like what I'm working on, which not trying to be too mysterious, but working with one of the. I'm not using Chat GPT. I use another company. Since they don't pay me for anything, I'm not saying their name. But the bottom line is what they've done is I create a unique program that doesn't exist anywhere in the United States or the world, frankly, to help first responders get better through wellness, through education, as well as having a warm line where they can reach out. And it's unique. And AI, I gave them the idea. They develop stuff. You got to be critical of what they create and then talk back and make sure that it creates something. And I've never used AI straight out in the sense that I've always been critical of what I put in. And I think that that's why AI is helpful, but is not the solution, which I think a lot of people turn it as the solution. It is a solution that you need to be critical about.
No, right, right. Yeah, and it's yeah, it might be helpful for us just to talk about the I mean, I think at least for me, and I don't know if everybody thinks this way, but when I think of AI, I immediately think of Chat GPT, which they were kind of the first kind of big AI boom on the market, but now it's gone across pretty much every platform you can use now. I mean, like even now we're recording this using Zoom. And I've got the AI companion running in this, so it's taking notes and it's giving me, well, at the end will give me a summary of everything we talked about, including the chatter we had before we started live about sports. So we were thinking about rebranding the PsychCraft Network into a sports network. But anyway, so James, what sort of ways are you're really a support person for a lot of therapists, and you're using it to with podcasting and also just other areas.
Yeah, I use it for a lot of content creation. But we were talking about how it's kind of everywhere. Like, even Grammarly, like I downloaded Grammarly many years ago, and it added AI components. It will now, I subscribe to it because it rewrites my things and makes me sound better. I still mess up, but it helps me just rephrase things and say things more succinctly and better. I use it in Google Drive. I think it's Gemini in Google Drive, and if I can't
Hmm.
find something, it will find it for me, or search through all my documents and find it. It will summarize folders for me, like what
Hmm.
I have all my podcast notes in there, and it can summarize them. Another place I use it is a notebook.lm. I think it's another Google product where I create folders. And right now, I have folders on lead magnets. I have folders on how to make a web page. I have folders on how to have sales conversation, because I'm on the support and sales side. And every time I find a good article, I'll throw it in. I'll throw the PDF or the article in the notebook, and then when I go back to that problem, because I'm frequently making web pages and landing pages and podcasts, I'll ask it. I'll ask it questions that I have about how do I say this, or how do I do this?
Hmm.
I suppose the main thing I use it for, though, is content creation. So,
Hmm.
blogging, podcasting, and it's really sped up the speed of how I do things. But as Steve was talking a little bit ago, like what you feed it is important, because I could just say, create me a blog on create an online course for therapists, and it would create an online course for therapists, but it would have
Hmm.
none of me in it. It would have none of
Hmm.
my voice, none of my thoughts, none of my experience in it. So what I like to do is lead AI through a series of questions, and it starts out with me just brain dumping. I use Windows, so it's I open the voice recorder, which is the Windows key H, I think, or maybe Windows key Y, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I just talk into it, and I'll talk about the topic, and it'll summarize it for me. And then I have a program. They're called GPTs in Chat GPT, so I pay for Chat GPT. And I have a series of questions that I have it ask me for my content over and over again. And then I'll answer. We have a conversation. I just voice
Mm-hmm.
record into the program a conversation, and then it says, "Oh, you said this. Is this right?" And then I can update it. And by the
Mm-hmm.
end, I have something that's me, but AI enhanced, I guess. I don't know what the right word is. So I use
Right.
it for, and then I can take the same conversation and turn it into a podcast, and turn it into a blog, and turn it into social posts, and turn it into LinkedIn articles. I've been writing a bunch of LinkedIn articles. That's what I've been doing on my social media stuff, and it works. So I'm really using it to help me automate some processes and treat it like a very competent assistant that is not that makes mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. It's amazing how you can train the different AI platforms to do what you want it to do. Another one that I've started using recently that was introduced to me by Uriah Guilford is Claude AI, and it's really very focused on business and like creating business plans or sales funnels, those kinds of things, of really giving you a good outline and saying, okay, this is how these are the steps to do all these different things. And I think one of the things that's going to be a hot commodity, I think, are the GPT are the prompts or GPTs or whatever you call them. Again, I'm a novice at this, but I think just being able to know what to ask is really crucial. And of course, the more detail you put into one of these, the better it gets at learning your style.
One of the tricks I was taught is, if I don't know how to use it, this like I want to make a blog post on a topic, but I don't know how to do that. I will say, "R- write a prompt that will help me, that will help the AI execute what I want you to do," and
Hmm.
then it will write it for me. And then I think this works better is then when it writes the prompt, say, "That's great. What would make this prompt 10 times better?" Because
Hmm.
AI sometimes does it will do the job, but it might not think through all the options. It's just like trying to conserve energy. So
Hmm.
ask it to do what you want it to do. Make this blog post for me, make this product idea for me, make this web page for me. Okay,
Hmm.
what's a prompt, or what would make this prompt even better, and then execute it, and then you revise the what it made for you. But you got to ask, just what you said, you got to ask it what what do you want to do, and if you don't know, just ask it to help you do it, and it's fabulous. It writes
Yeah.
amazing.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know, there's a few things that you mentioned, and how these AIs work. One of the interesting things, if you ever want to experiment with it, and maybe we can do it off air for laughs,
Hmm.
is ask AI, what is the meaning of life in 10 points? And I guarantee
Hmm.
you the answer that I get will be slightly different than the one Gordon gets. And it will be slightly different than James gets, because it learns from you
Hmm.
Hmm.
and it really embraces who you are. So I
Hmm.
think that one of the things you got to remember is AI is also as smart as you give it.
Yeah.
And so, and again, this is from a Reddit article that I read. And I did it with two people I thought were similar to me. We definitely have different versions of ourselves according to AI. And
Uh-huh.
I think that that's something to keep in mind, is that you're educating AI. And when
Mm-hmm.
you say, give me a better prompt and make it 10 times better or whatever, that's one thing. But AI is also going to be like, well, James is into course creation. He wants to support people. He's a supportive person. So it's not saying that out loud to you, but AI will be geared towards that. You
Yeah.
know, um, I remember I wrote that down too, because AI also is dumb. And what I mean by that is I was waiting for a client to come in. I played some music in the background. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And the client never showed up. It took about half an hour, oh, I overslept. I'm sorry. Well, when I closed AI, the note said profanity driven conversation, because that's what the music was playing.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And very angry,
um,
very upset. And I'm like, Jesus, is that what AI thinks I listen to? I guess so. Um, so I think that what we got to remember too with AI is that you do have some control over it. That's why I mentioned it.
hmm
Like,
hmm
you control how you're going to skew things, right? We laughed, and we can, if you have the private conversation earlier about, you know, James made a comment on my professional page about something. And I said, yes, you got my professional answer. Now,
uh-huh.
if you do that same thing in my private
Uh-huh.
Facebook or what have you,
Uh,
there will be a different answer I'm going to give you. And
yes.
AI can actually learn from that too, because AI thinks I'm a very professional therapist, yet I'm very profanity laced type person. If you go listen a little bit to my it's not that bad, obviously. But you go listen to my resilience development in action, it's not, swears fly. And so
hmm
I think it's also a good reminder that AI is also fed by your knowledge. It is not
Right.
just a blank slate, as some people believe
hmm
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have, because I pay for the Chat GPT, I have a memory bank. I'm sure, I don't know if the free version has a large memory bank, but
hmm
it's constantly saying memory saved, or I ask it to remember things and it will remember. I don't know if I asked it to be nice or supportive at one time, but it's always telling me that's a great idea, or you're close, or that's golden,
Yeah.
James. I'm like, I don't know if I trained it to be like super, I don't, is it being condescending or just nice? I don't know, but it's always, it gets so much verbal support
yeah.
from AI, and like it's
Yeah.
so encouraging to me.
Yeah.
It makes me suspicious, actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's yeah. I think one of the things that was kind of a thing that I noticed when I first started using it, and I would say, "Please give me blah 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 blah," and "Thank you for giving me blah
Hmm.
blah blah," and it's kind of like maybe it picks up on just kind of that polite language of please and thank you and that kind of thing, and then incorporates it into what it produces. But what to switch gears a little bit. One of the things that I know has come up in conversations I've had with various people, not necessarily in the mental health field, but other like medical fields and stuff, is the impact of AI on medicine and yeah, just even in the professions of like law and that kind of thing about, is it going to start replacing professionals? I don't think it will, but that's a place that people are worried. Somebody was telling me about seeing on Instagram 7 questions to ask AI if you want to help with a particular problem, like a therapist, if you want to use AI as your therapist. And so, I mean, those are things that are getting thrown around out there, and so that's going to be an interesting thing. I think what it will be missing is it's not going to have the depth that a therapist actually could go with someone because you know what you the only thing it can pick up on is what you type in, and so a lot gets lost in translation with that.
I think that I have a few clients who use it as support. but it also had to educate what type of support they needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I go back to it'll never replace therapists. Frankly, like even coding, I know that people have said, oh, well, if it's going to code pages, you won't need people, which is true and untrue. It will code a
Mm-hmm.
page, but it will code a page not necessarily in the most efficient manner, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, it may not always reflect what you need. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that with, like it's just like anything else, Google was going to end the world, right? Or what was it at the time? Ask Jeeves or Yahoo,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
I'm dating myself of how long I've been on the internet.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that was the death of everything. And it wasn't. It was an
Mm-hmm.
adaptation, but it wasn't the death of anything. And I think
Right.
that that's what it is like you can have a good supportive therapist, but again, I'm more of a cut the crap type of guy. And that's
Mm-hmm.
helpful for people. And I don't think Chat GPT or any of the AIs will ever learn to say cut the crap to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Not
So
with
I
the
think
same level of empathy you give.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you were talking about this, it made me think of like digital film. Like for many years there was just there was no film. People drew pictures, and artists, and did cameras did cameras reduce the amount of pictures people um, painted or drew? Did it reduce the number of artists? And then when it turned to digital, did that reduce the number of photos that people took? It actually didn't. In fact, there's probably more pictures taken in a day now than was taken in 100 years. For every
Mm-hmm.
Right.
day there's so much media created, there's actually
Mm-hmm.
more pictures, and more photography is open to more people because the tools are there. Yes, it did kill the chemical film industry, but it didn't kill picture taking. It
Right.
Mm-hmm.
didn't kill the results. And so I think these tools are sort of, we should look at them in the same vein. They're not going to replace therapists. They're not going to replace coders. They're not going to replace lawyers, although it might make their jobs different. But you're still going to
Mm-hmm.
need a lawyer. You're still going to need an artist of some sort. You're still going to need a programmer to guide it. But now maybe instead of 1 out of 100 people programming something, there's like 20 out of 100 people making
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's actually encoding, because it does
Mm-hmm.
really well when there's lots of logic and rules. Like I thought of coding and lawyers because you can read the rules and interpret it. For therapists and people stuff, you can ask questions, but I like there's that human element that I think that leads to healing. When somebody
Mm-hmm.
knows you and you believe that they know you. I don't believe, as I said about AI, I don't believe it thinks I have great ideas, or that I'm
Mm-hmm.
brilliant, or that it's
Don't sell
gold.
yourself
It's
short, James. Come
yeah.
on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I do
Yeah.
sell myself short sometimes. But
Yeah.
I just what you said there, Steve, I take that 100 times more valuable than all the AI, you got a great idea comments that have ever been made to me. You
Mm-hmm.
saying, a person, a real person that I know with intellect and thought and your own experiences, saying to me, you have good ideas, is worth a lot more than a computer. And that's what I don't think AI can do.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that too, just to where we're as human beings, we're wired for being with other human beings. I mean, it's just we're social creatures, and we have to have all of that that kind of contact and that context. So it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna. We're it's you might have like you all have already mentioned. I think the way services and things that we do are delivered or accomplished will probably drastically change. But you're still going to have the human touch to implement a lot of it. I was another conversation I was having with a person that works in the medical field, and they were talking about how, particularly in endocrinology and genetics, for pediatrics, they can take a picture of a kid's face and the side of their head, and AI can identify potential genetic markers that might create health problems down the road. So, but yeah, and so, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to happen, but you still need a human to kind of say, okay, you know, how much of a worry do we really need to have about that? And is this just just purely data without any sort of subjective thought to it all?
Right. And I think that it goes back to, we were joking that we're going to make it the PsychCraft Sports Network
Hmm.
earlier. But, and again, look at any sport that you want to think of. You will never
Hmm.
be able to replicate the talent of a Connor McDavid in hockey.
Hmm.
Being able to handle the football like Patrick Mahomes will
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
never be replicated. You can't take that anywhere.
Hmm.
LeBron James is talented, and that's never going to change. And that you can't
Hmm.
replicate with AI. I don't care how good their training programs would come out. And I think that
Hmm.
that's why, like, when we talk about humanity, this is a little bit of the criticism we have about social media too, right? What do we call them? Keyboard warriors,
Hmm.
right? Oh yeah, blah blah blah. But
Hmm.
when you have to interact with a person, you're not going to say the same words. So I
Right.
think that there's always going to be a human, like you talked about, the human contact, the human interaction. We're social beings. I think that's always going to play a factor. And
Hmm.
you can put the best AI hockey game on, it probably won't be as thrilling as Edmonton coming back from a 3-0 deficit in the first period in game 3 or game 4, whatever it was.
Hmm.
It won't be as thrilling. There's no way it can be that thrilling. So I
Hmm.
think that for me, what I remember is these are tools at our disposal. This is not the end of the world. This is not what, no one's watching Chat GPT and saying
Right.
this is life.
Hmm.
And I think that
Yeah.
that's why I keep on saying we can be scared of that box that made noise in the 1800s, but somehow it didn't take over the world. Although
Yeah.
I'm sure Orson Welles did his best to do so. Um,
Right.
and I think that that's how I perceive any tools that we develop. Instead of being scared, seeing them as a complementary to humanity, not
Mm.
humanity.
Right. Right. Well, the thing is too is just thinking about the human element. As in my work as a marriage and family therapist, um, one of the things that with couples, they will try to solve and work out problems with each other through texting. Well, that's not a great idea because there's so much lost in translation through just typing words. What is it they say? 70 to 80% of communication is nonverbal. It's our tone, the tone, voice tone we use, it's our body language,
Right.
all of those things are what we pick up on first as humans. Um, I don't know that AI is ever going to be accurate with that.
No,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I don't think
Yeah.
that it's ever going to be able, when I said don't sell yourself short, James, if I text that, it may almost sound sarcastic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't being sarcastic at all. But if you read it in a
Mm-hmm.
sarcastic tone, it's a choice. It's the
Mm-hmm.
receiver's choice when you're texting, and that's always scary.
Right. Right. Yeah. So yeah. So words do matter, but the human element I think is even more important um, when it comes to all of this. Well, we could go in a lot of different directions here, but any parting thoughts for you guys and just thinking about this topic?
I think I
Uh,
go back to the same thing I said earlier. It's a tool. It's not who we
Hmm.
are. It's just another tool to use, and don't make it who you are.
Right.
I don't think that I don't think AI is going to take over the world, just like Google won't take over the world, and TV or streaming or podcasting or anything else. It's all part of everything else. I was telling a client today, we were talking about how do you take care of yourself. So sometimes, and again, I'm old, so I call them books on tape. I forget to call it Audible. Um,
Hmm.
I listen to, Audible sometimes. Sometimes I listen to podcasts. Sometimes I listen to music when I go home. Depends on
Hmm.
my mood. I don't stick to one thing and say this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And no, and saying that AI is it is foolish, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It is
Right.
very good, but it's foolish.
Right. Right. There's
I guess
with any problem, there's any number of ways to go at it. Yeah.
I guess for me, what I would say is you don't have to use AI. Like it's gonna be in all your programs eventually, but you don't have to use it. It's just gonna, if you do, it's gonna make your life easier. I wrote a
Mm-hmm.
blog today that probably would have taken me 4 hours if I had to type it all out myself and spell everything correctly, and I still misspelled stuff. But if I had to
Mm-hmm.
do it all myself with and I probably would have had my wife check it actually. That's how I got
Mm-hmm.
through college. Does this sound right? I don't know. Did I
Mm-hmm.
spell it right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to embrace everything for AI, but you might find some repeatable tasks, especially with notes and creation and summary stuff, that it's very useful to do. And I even heard like some of the programs. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but some of those AI note taking programs will pull in old notes and give you history of things as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
Like that sounds magical to me because if I had to
Mm-hmm.
remember all that stuff in we session 1 we talked about this. Oh, it came back up in session 10. If I had to remember all that, it might be very difficult. So if you
Mm-hmm.
have an AI note taker that gives you better outcomes for your clients and that excites you, I would figure out how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do it all at once. Like it's slowly come into my work. I probably start out with Grammarly, and then I started doing some Chat GPT, and then I added the program Descript to edit videos, and then I added the notebook. But it wasn't all in one weekend. It's been like 3 years as I've been adding these.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, 2 years? How long has Chat GPT been out? It feels like forever, but it's only been
Right.
like 2 years.
Yeah, two,
Right.
So
3 years.
3 years, okay. So um, pick something that you want to solve and see if AI can help you with it. You don't have to do it
Right.
all at once. It Figure out where you want to use it and use it, and you'll probably fall in love with it. And then when you get good at that, you add it to other things. You don't have to be great at it all at once. Use it as a tool. It's like the calculator. Calculators did not stop math, just made math easier for people. So
Right. Right.
AI can help with notes. It won't stop you from being a note taker or whatever you're doing in your practice, but it can help you be better at what you're doing.
Right.
That's my
Right.
final
Yeah.
note.
Yeah. So I would say, folks, those that are hearing this, maybe put in the comments what ideas you're having about AI and how you're using it. And yeah, and hopefully we can continue the discussion going. So thanks again for joining us if you joined us. And one of what we hope to do with the PsychCraft Network is continue to put these out at least monthly and maybe bump that up and just on different topics around mental health, mental wellness, also just life in general, So, yeah.
We
So,
could we could start out talking about sports for a few
yeah, if
minutes,
you could. Yeah, yeah.
or cats, or camping,
Or, yeah, yeah. We can cover it all if we need to.
or the conferences we're going to. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I can see radio, PsychCraft Network radio really being good.
yeah. Yeah, I think we've got something here that could go somewhere. So, well, take care, folks, and thanks you, James and Steve, for joining me on this, and we'll be doing more in the future here.